Epic, Tom Selleck has had enough of Rosie running her mouth. Nobody saw this coming. It's become commonplace in our society for celebrities to use their influence to spread their ideas on government and politics. Such is the case in this clip from the Rosie O'Donnell show. In this ludicrous interview, Rosie uses the platform of her interview with Tom Selleck to discuss her stance on gun control. Selleck appeared on the show to discuss his upcoming movie, The Love Letter, but instead was ambushed by Rosie and her Second Amendment viewpoints. His response? Priceless. Tom Selleck's grace and poise is part of what we loved about him as his iconic heartthrob character, Magnum P.I. Although the show ended long ago, his own character prevails. And that high moral character was on display when he appeared on the Rosie O'Donnell show to discuss his upcoming movie, The Love Letter. However, the interview took a turn when Rosie began pestering Selleck about the commercial he did for the NRA. In true Selleck style, his response was gracious and measured, yet he didn't back down to her badgering. He stood by his decisions, and he explained his feelings in a mature and respectable way. So much so that Rosie was forced to apologize for her own bad behavior in light of his impeccable behavior. Our favorite moment from the interview is at 5:25 when Selleck questions Rosie's logic. Rosie, you also have the freedom of speech, but you're not allowed to scream fire in a crowded movie theater because it threatens the safety of other people. Assault weapons threaten the safety of other people. There's no reason in my opinion to have them. You wanna have a hunting rifle? Great. You wanna have a handgun? Tom, do you really think the Second Amendment is in the Constitution to guarantee hunting and target shooting? Do you really think that's what the Founding Fathers meant? Rosie, I think the Second Amendment is in the Constitution so that we can have muskets when the British people come over in 1800. I don't think it's in the Constitution to have assault weapons in the year 2000. As Tom sips his coffee, Rosie asks him if she's wrong. That's when Selleck casually nods his head, and we all know he's right. Here's what viewers of the clip are saying about this exchange. She invited Tom on her show and tried to discredit him. He remained very calm and logical. She only made herself look like an ass. Some people just have class and some people are just trash. When Rosie asked don't the guns bear some responsibility? Tom should have asked her if the spoon bears the responsibility for her obesity. The gun and the spoon are only tools in the hands of men. That woman O'Donnell is a fool and there is no cure for her. For example, you cannot buy an assault weapon at the gun store. A real assault weapon is a machine gun. Criminals get guns, even in Mexico and in South America. Whose side are you on? Rosie's or Tom's? Share your views with us in the comments section below. Breaking, Japan sends the biggest warship in history with surprise for U.S. fleet, media stunned. Japan's Navy has dispatched its largest warship reportedly tasked with escorting U.S. military ships off the Japanese coast amid heightened tension on the Korean peninsula. The helicopter carrier Izuma departed the Yokosuka port near Tokyo earlier Monday. Japanese media say the destroyer is set to escort a U.S. supply ship in the Pacific Ocean south of Tokyo later Monday, a new mission under the new security legislation allowing Japan's military a greater role in overseas activity. The U.S. supply ship is expected to refuel other American warships, including the USS Carl Vinson Strike Group, currently in the region. Japan's defense ministry only says the Izuma left to eventually participate in an international naval event in Singapore on May 15. It came after the U.S. Embassy in Seoul confirmed reports America's CIA director was making an unannounced visit to South Korea, amid heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula. An embassy official said Mike Pompeo and his wife were in the South Korean capital on Monday, but wouldn't say for how long. He spoke on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to the media. South Korean media reports said the CIA chief arrived in South Korea over the weekend for meetings with the head of South Korea's National Intelligence Service and high-level officials in the presidential office. The U.S. official, however, wouldn't confirm any meetings beyond ones with officials at U.S. forces in Korea and the U.S. Embassy. The visit comes after North Korea conducted another missile test on Saturday, and a U.S. aircraft carrier group was in nearby waters. A Japanese destroyer left port Monday, reportedly to escort U.S. naval ships as Japan increases its military role in the region. The Japanese destroyer Izumo, a helicopter carrier, departed from Yokosuka port south of Tokyo in the morning. Japanese media reports said it will meet up with and escort a U.S. supply ship, a first-time mission under new security legislation that allows Japan's military a greater role overseas. They said the U.S. ship is expected to refuel other American warships, including the USS Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group. Japan's defense ministry only said that the Izumo would participate in an international naval event in Singapore on May 15. In Australia, Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull used a commemoration of a World War II naval battle to warn North Korea against destabilizing the region. Today Australia and the United States continue to work with our allies to address new security threats around the world, Turnbull said. Together, we're taking a strong message to North Korea that we will not tolerate reckless, dangerous threats to the peace and stability of our region. Turnbull is to meet Trump for the first time Thursday in New York. Muslims tell employer to bow down to Islam, company has three-word response. Muslims have been convinced that they are special and deserve perks above those of any other American. Over 200 Muslim employees at a meat packaging plant in Colorado walked out of their jobs to protest. The Muslims demanded to have dedicated breaks to prayer. The company refused and told the protesters, "You're all fired." Via Denver Post. The company asked their employees to return to their jobs, and the vast majority refused. As a result, over 190 Muslims were fired from the plant. The Muslim employees were told they were free to use their breaks to pray just like any other employee. That was not good enough. The company even provided a room of reflection where they allowed people of all faiths to pray on their own time. The Muslims wanted special treatment, and were fired over their demands. The company previously granted Muslims time to pray during their shifts, but they found their production capacity was severely hindered. The plant is an assembly line and cannot accommodate the shutdown for prayer. The employees of the meat packaging plant are unionized, but the Muslim employees did not stage their protest through the union. Instead, they called in the Council of Islamic Relations to negotiate on their behalf. The employees did not warn their employer of the impending strike and walked off the line without notice, causing severe financial damage. The company had no choice but to fire them. Many of the fired Muslim employees are now begging for their jobs back, while the Islamic Council continues to negotiate with the company of their behalf. The company refuses to capitulate and will simply hire less demanding employees who are more willing to work. The liberal media has coddled our Muslim immigrants into believing that they deserve special treatment. Their unrealistic demands were rightfully shut down by the company. The meat package was already going above and beyond to accommodate their Muslim employees and finally decided enough was enough. There are many unemployed Americans who would be happy to replace these ungrateful Muslims and work without special extra breaks. Muslims need to understand that in America, all people are treated equally. No one receives special treatment, and everyone is expected to contribute their fair share. Angry Patriot Movement. What do you think of the employer's reaction? Please share the story on Facebook and tell us what you think because we want to hear your voice. Breaking: North Korea just launched a ballistic missile. Look where it is heading. North Korea has just launched another ballistic missile from an area north of Pyongyang. North Korea fired an unidentified missile from a site in the vicinity of Bukking in Pyongyang-do, South Pyongan Province, early this morning, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS, said in a statement. The South Korean military is now looking at the type of missile and how far it flew according to Yonhap. The last North Korean missile launch failed. It is not known what happened to the missile currently. What do you think Trump should do now? Do you think it is time for Trump to teach North Korea a lesson? Share this and pray for our troops right now, y'all. They are going to need our positive energy. Get this out here, sad. The Trumps were stopped from helping kids with cancer for this one sick reason. The St. Jude's Marathon is today. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is a hospital in Tennessee that treats kids with cancer. And what's even more amazing, they never charge the family of the child with cancer a penny for the treatment. As you can imagine, this wonderful hospital relies tremendously on donations to keep it going and able to provide this free cancer treatment for children. Eric Trump, President Trump's son, used to donate a lot of money to St. Jude, through his foundation, the Eric Trump Foundation. In fact, he donated $16 million over the years. Sadly, because of the perception that donations to his foundation could be tied back to his dad, he had to stop helping these very sick children and their families. Start at minute 4 to see how Eric Trump devoted himself to these sick kids. One bit of good news is that the Trump organization is still helping St. Jude help sick children, indirectly. They humbly ask their donors to donate to the hospital directly now. This just proves that the children are the Trumps' #1 interest, since they won't get any credit at all for these donations. This family continues to amaze me. If they amaze you every day, too, let's get this to go viral, and help bring awareness to one of the Trumps' many great deeds. Melania just dropped everything to go to hospital after vicious attack on Baron Sy. Check the source here, goo.gl web link. Melania Trump has quietly impressed with her duties as First Lady, which have kept her more busy lately than in the first few months of her husband's presidency. She used to spend the majority of her time in New York with her 11-year-old son Baron so he could finish his school year, but has been in Washington, D.C., more recently preparing for her and Baron's official move in the next few weeks. Although we've seen more of Melania, she was strangely out of the public eye for much of Friday. This was just 2 days after her child had been viciously attacked, and also while President Donald Trump was at the NRA meeting in Atlanta.